Good morning. Please find your seats. Our program will begin shortly. Good morning. Today's program will begin with a spoken word performance. Please welcome Orion Meadows to the stage.
All right, how is everyone doing? Glad to be here. So as you said, my name is Orion Meadows. I'm a spoken word performance artist, author, and I work for the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago as a nonviolence trainer. And I also work with the Illinois Coalition for Higher Education in Prisons. We work and try to get more programs incorporated in the prison system, try to help people come out and be able to become successful, productive members in society. So with that being said, today I'm going to recite a poem that I've never recited in public before. So I'm practicing on you all right? All right. Okay, so this is entitled, You Are Not Alone. You are not alone. There are millions of other souls who experience hardships just like you, some even worse. To be alive is to be blessed. Your life is not a curse, it is a test that one doesn't study for but learns along the way. The way? Well, the way is the path to the proverbial kingdom of heavens with many mansions. Let me start over, hold on. You are not alone. There are millions of other souls who suffer and experience hardships just like you, some even worse. To be alive is to be blessed. Your life is not a curse, it is a test that one doesn't study for but learns along the way. The way is the path to the proverbial kingdom of heaven with many mansions. But understand that princely wealth is not the possession of physical objects, it is the true awareness of oneself. You are not alone in your difficulties. Survival of the fittest is the decree of the land, for all creatures great and small, including the species of man. All of nature crawls, swims, runs, climbs, leaps, and flies toward fulfilling its purpose. And so it is with you. You are not alone. The leaf, sloth, lion, walrus, humpback whale, all carry the burden of adversity, but for millions and millions of years have survived. You are not alone. Look towards the heavens. See the stars? Even they had to struggle to be born. The planets were not always here, and they didn't just suddenly appear. There was a process as the forces established themselves, and the universe evolved. The sun was not always the sun. It became so as the nebula spun, and the matter spread outward until it began to form those orbs that revolve around that massive ball of fire. Everything is constantly moving, making strides and working towards something. For life is toil, life is struggle, life is fighting for survival and working through the pain until what one works for reaches completion and is attained. You are not alone. You stand on the shoulders of giants who built pyramids and skyscrapers, who through faith in the power of intent first climbed mountains, and then they moved them. Their DNA is in your veins. Their memory is in the souls of our people. They are us and we are them, for they are forever with us. You are not alone. Even though the world can be cold, there is still good that beats in the hearts of men. There are those who still dare to care and stand up when darkness seeks to destroy us. When evil rears its ugly head, they are there to extend a helping hand. And you are not alone. And when you feel violated and isolated from anyone who can provide comfort, peace, and security, go deep within yourself and find refuge in the silence. There you will hear the voice that will give you wisdom and give you guidance. And it will teach you and give you knowledge exceeding anything that the world can teach. But this is the voice that does not use the mouth or tongue to speak. It echoes deep in our soul and talks to us each, saying, you are not alone. Thank you.
Orion, thank you for those powerful words. I couldn't think of a better message to get us started this morning. because we are not alone. I mean, that is so consistent with the theme we're going to talk about this morning. So thank you, and thank you for the important work that you do. But good morning, everybody. I'm Russell Toney, Board President for Chicago Cares. I have the honor of welcoming you to the 2023 Chicago Cares Leadership Breakfast. Our theme for this breakfast this morning, and in some ways our theme for Chicago Cares, is Forging Bonds, Igniting Action. Forging Bonds, Igniting Action. We are not alone. That's what Chicago Cares is about. That's what this breakfast is about. That's what hopefully all of us in this room are about. I know that most, if not all of us in this room, are busier than we'd like to be, at least on most days. There's a lot of places we could have been this morning, a lot of things we could have been doing. So I want to first start by thanking everyone just for being here, especially given the schedule change we had to make. But also, if you made the choice to be here, that probably means that you already believe in the transformational power of service. So I want to thank you for that also, and for your commitment to helping make Chicago a stronger community. And we especially, as I said, appreciate your flexibility with the date change that we had to make. As you know, the breakfast was originally scheduled for Monday. We moved it to today. When we found out that we had a conflict with the mayoral inauguration, we felt that it was important to support that. And we knew that the right thing to do was to move our date, and we're so happy that you chose to kind of move your date and change your schedules with us. Our goal this morning is to do a couple of things. One, we wanted to bring leaders together from around our city to affirm our shared message, our shared mission. And we also wanted to forge bonds and make connections that'll help us collaborate better as we go forward in the future. Because again, I'm going to keep going back to Orion's words, we are not alone. We also want to honor a number of nonprofit organizations as well as businesses in our community who've done some outstanding work over the past year to help transform Chicago, so we're going to do that also. Now, we're honored to have Dr. Akilah Watkins here with us as a guest speaker. You're going to hear from her a little bit later. Dr. Watkins is a nationally known social impact leader, and today she's going to share her unique perspective on how, through service, we can build a stronger we. But before we get started, I also want to recognize and thank some other very important and special people here in the room. This breakfast, as we know, couldn't be possible without the generosity and hard work of our sponsors, our board members, our host committee, and the Chicago Care staff. So if you're in any of those groups that I just mentioned, could you please stand just for a second and be recognized? And then, last but not least, I also want to give a special thank you to the Four Seasons Hotel for the room and the breakfast, which they generously provided at no cost. The Four Seasons has not only been, they've not only provided this generous donation for multiple years, but they also partner with Chicago Cares in other ways to impact our community. So again, thanks, Four Seasons. We never want to take your generosity for granted. And then last, before I move on to the program, I want to draw your attention to the flowers at the centerpiece of your table. Those flowers were provided by Southside Blooms, which is... They are a nonprofit flower delivery business here in Chicago that's committed to environmentalism as well as social impact. And we're also featuring many other companies on your tables and in your program. So we'd encourage you to think about how you can support these businesses as an act of service. So now it's my pleasure to invite up to the stage my fellow board member, founder of Chicago Cares, someone who's been committed to the community for years, Leslie Bloom.
Thank you, Russell, and welcome to the Chicago Cares Leadership Breakfast. I'm delighted to see so many friends and partners celebrating with us today. And a special thank you to Orion and a special thank you to the Four Seasons. You are such caring, special people, every one of you. And the Four Seasons, I should add, not only donates this breakfast to us, but is also regularly volunteers in Lawndale out in the community. So they are doing so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This morning, I am proud to share a bit of the story of how Chicago Cares is redefining volunteerism. The conviction that connecting diverse people through service could lead to a more just, caring, and equitable society propelled Mary Purhall and me to found Chicago Cares back in 1991. Over time, we learned that the true power of service is not the result of any one specific project. The power of service lies in the journey that volunteers and companies make in partnership with community that catalyzes connection, empathy, investment, and deeper long-term civic engagement. How we structure this volunteer journey has evolved over the years, leading to impact never dreamed possible. At Chicago Cares, we listen to community voice. Volunteerism is community-driven by those most directly impacted. Service experiences combine personal connection and action with education, connecting past to present, helping our 5,000 volunteers to understand both history and the community strategy for moving forward. Our programs are co-designed in partnership with communities on the south, west, and northwest sides with whom we have built long-term, trusting relationships. Our co-design process itself is a powerful way for volunteers and the community to be in relationship with one another. Finally, all Chicago Cares projects are ongoing and part of a long-term commitment to helping our partner communities fulfill their own quality of life plans. I am proud to say that this journey builds bridges between diverse people and influences how individuals and companies engage with community. Here is just one example. Last year, Chicago Cares was able to help channel over $5 million of funding directly to neighborhood initiatives. Believe me, 30 years ago, we never dreamed of this. And this kind of caring does not happen overnight. But we have come to understand that our redefined service journey moves community goals from abstract ideas and makes them personal and real for volunteers and companies who become vested in the neighborhood's long-term success. Our community partners regularly report that the relationships that Chicago Cares facilitates have incredible power to unlock resources for their neighborhood. Speaking of resources, Chicago Cares never imagined that our heroes like Rodney, Cecile, Tanisha, Jason, and Joelle, who are the leaders of our partner organizations in North Lawndale, Englewood, Belmont Cragen, and Chicago Lawn, would come to value Chicago Cares enough to join our board of directors, lending their time, wisdom, and resources as fiduciaries. Their board service is the single greatest endorsement that I could ever dream of, and is a proof point of our community-driven service model. Today, as I take stock of our evolution, I am so proud of how Chicago Cares has redefined volunteerism. This morning, you will hear impressive stories of what service makes possible. If you're not already in relationship with us, I invite you to consider today as the first step on your journey. I want to recognize everyone on the Chicago Cares Board of Directors, all of the incredible staff, and our CEO, Ellen Ray. Ellen is our true North Star. Anyone who knows Ellen is forever changed by her essence. It takes a village, and none of this would be possible without all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie. Good morning. As you all are hearing my fan club say, I'm Dionne Bowe, a proud member of Chicago Cares and the Vice President of Urban Development at the National Main Street Center, also known as Main Street America. It is my honor to announce this year's award recipients who will exemplify the power of transformational service. National Main Street Center, alongside the communities we work with in Chicago, got the opportunity to experience that ourselves when we attended the first Power of Service training last fall. The Power of Service is Chicago Cares' newest opportunity for companies, nonprofits, and volunteers to learn how to design service experiences that lead to deep, trusting relationships, as well as meaningful impact. I can't recommend it enough. The Power of Service was invaluable to us in the communities we work with. It helped us reimagine how we view service and learn how to engage volunteers in a more meaningful way. Now, on to celebrate our incredible partners who do exemplary service with Chicago Cares. The Corporate Leadership Award. First up, it goes to EY. EY has partnered with Chicago Cares since 1999. But last year was a real turning point in how we approach service together. In 2022, Chicago Cares and EY worked together to pilot a unique and impactful series of skill-based volunteer experiences to support small businesses in North Lawndale, Roseland, and South Shore. This wasn't a one-and-done engagement. EY volunteers worked with their partners over months to develop marketing and business plans and to improve their operations. Chicago Cares prepared the EY volunteers by helping them learn how to center community building during their volunteer consulting sessions. It was incredible to see our partners at EY commit to a new way of doing corporate service and truly builds relationships, challenges volunteers, and paves the way for deeper partnership. Speaking of relationships, I understand that several of our EY small business partners are here today to celebrate with us. Will all of our EY partners please stand? Please, 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 please. And don't forget, supporting these local entrepreneurs count as service too, and their businesses are listed in your program. Thank you so much. To accept the award today, please welcome Tim Liston, Corporate Social Responsibility Lead, at EY. Next, I'm very pleased to present the Community Leadership Award to the Northwest Side Community Development Corporation. The CDC provides the Northwest Side and the vibrant Latin E neighborhood of Belmont-Cragen with the tools and resources to preserve affordable housing, prevent displacement, and support local businesses. The Northwest Side CDC has partnered with Chicago Cares for 4 years, and in that time, we have engaged over 2,200 volunteers across 160 service experiences in Belmont-Cragen. Over the past year in particular, the Northwest Side CDC has been a key partner in launching new Chicago Cares programming, responding to the needs of small businesses, artists, and community members. Together, we engage volunteers and companies to help small businesses apply for COVID recovery grants, put on community building events, pilot new models of collaborative fundraising, and learn about the rich history and potential of Belmont Cragen. We are so inspired by the transformational work of the Northwest Side CDC and the deep relationships we have built through our partnership, including welcoming Jason Estrema, Executive Director, onto Chicago Cares Board of Directors. Please welcome Jason and the Northwest Side CDC team to the stage. Okay, we gotta move over. Oh, yes.
You bring the whole crew.
Yeah.
Here, where would you like me to go?
You and I in the middle?
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Sorry, guys. Here, we got it.
Where's our camera? All right.
Okay. Congratulations. I had to step it up if I was going to be like taking a picture next to Jason. He looks fantastic. Okay, our final award of the morning is the Collaborative Leadership Award. Oh, I lost. Last year was the inaugural year for this award, and we had the honor to present it to PepsiCo, Imagine Inglewood If, NLCCC, SWAP, Teamwork Inglewood, and UCAN for their collaborative efforts, incubated by Chicago Cares to launch Chicago Prep, a $5 million investment in young people on Chicago's South and West Sides. That deserves applause. This year, we have another incredible collaboration to celebrate. Congratulations to our winners, GCM Grosvenor, the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, and Urban Growers Collective. Believe it or not, their story of collaboration started at Chicago Cares Leadership Breakfast many years ago. So just think about what you could make possible with the person sitting next to you today. These three partners have worked together since 2017 to make substantial progress on Auburn Gresham's quality of life plan across a variety of fronts. Everything from improving neighborhood schools to cultivating health and wellness for residents to defining community gateways that attract businesses and shoppers. The community design mosaic they completed last summer at the entrance of the Green Era campus is just one of the many examples of the deep relationships and progress on QLP plans that service can make possible. Congratulations, team. To accept the Collaborative Leadership Award, please welcome to the stage Stacy Sellinger from GCM Grosvenor, Carlos Nelson from Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, and Desiree Sanders from Urban Grower Collective. Where's Desiree? She's coming. Okay.
Get this to you and Carlos?
Yeah, thank you. No, go on. Come on. These beautiful people. Congratulations. Thank you. All right. Okay, you ready? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations again to all of our winners. If you want to be up here next year, I encourage you to get engaged with Chicago Cares. As a board member and a donor, I can highly endorse Chicago Cares trainings like Power of Service and Board Core, as well as our customized service engagements. Please join us. Thank you.
Chicago Cares is important to me because it helps residents of the city find their way to civic life here in Chicago. In order for Chicago to be truly vibrant, truly equitable, truly a thriving city, we need every sector to be engaged in civic life.
Our experience with Chicago Cares has been one of collaboration and thought leadership. It's really transformed the way we approach community service.
Volunteering doesn't have to look just one way. Volunteering could look like ongoing projects with a United Airlines or a PepsiCo or PPM Jackson. Through those ongoing projects, able to build deeper relationships where now our organization has direct connections to those corporations.
Chicago Cares has been the place where we create meaningful on-ramps for people to see one another. And once we see one another, support one another. And if we continue to do that consistently, Chicago will be that place that reaches its full potential.
Community-centered volunteerism changes hearts and minds because it puts people in proximity with people who are like us, who are different from us, and creates space for us to be able to build bridges and to weave our lives together so that we're connected on a deeper level.
We're able to shine a light on the beautiful, thriving impact that's happening across our city.
It's not about what the service experience gets done. It's about what the service experience makes possible.
And our hope is to build sustainable impact by bringing more companies along for the work and doing this work together.
Because our city will become more powerful, more civically powerful, if we continue to come together in ways that make a difference.
I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Joel Rodriguez.
All right. I got a fan club too. You see that? Good morning, everyone. My name is Joel Rodriguez. I'm a community organizer with the Southwest Organizing Project. Thank you. And as of last month, I'm also a brand new member with the board with Chicago Cares. This morning, I have the pleasure of introducing our esteemed keynote speaker, Dr. Keila Watkins, President and CEO of Independent Sector. The Independent Sector and Chicago Cares have been partners for several years because our vision and our work are very much aligned. Both organizations are committed to bridging across lines of differences to bring people power to the work of change, whether through service, advocacy, or philanthropy. We are honored to be part of Dr. Watkins' first visit to Chicago since assuming her new role. She has made the most of it too, with a full week of listening and building relationships with Chicago's social impact sector. But Dr. Watkins also has deep ties to Chicago, and in some ways, this week has been a homecoming. She is a proud UIC alum, was trained as a community organizer on Chicago's West Side, and even has some favorite neighborhood restaurants. You know, I always say, you want to find the root causes of some problems, you follow the money, but if you want to find some powerful leaders and organizers, follow the food. That's where you'll find me, I'll tell you that. I was asked to give this introduction because I have a personal connection to the independent sector. For the past 2 years, I have served as a member of their inaugural Bridging Fellowship. The Bridging Fellowship has been an amazing experience. My cohort of community leaders from around the country have visited different communities and learned of the great work leaders and organizations are doing to inclusively engage neighbors, build connections, and break down differences. I've been an organizer for a long time, and we never called it bridging. But that's what organizing has always been, building bridges through relationships that build power and transform communities. Today, independent sector and Chicago Cares are taking the next step in the bridging movement by creating intentional opportunities for people to see one another, to come together for a common purpose and to build communities we all deserve. Dr. Watkins will tell you much more, but I'd like to end with this. I read that Dr. Watkins' passion for community began at the age of 14 when she led efforts to convert a vacant lot into a community center in her hometown of Roosevelt, New York. This is home for me. Over a decade ago, I began the work of building young leaders on the southwest side of Chicago through SWAP that were passionate about building the type of power that made them feel good about their communities and gave them hope for tomorrow. Today, many of those young people are leading the charge in creating safe spaces for young people out of once vacant properties. Like Devontae Boston, the founder of executive director of TGI, who runs programming for young people out of a once vacant storefront in Chicago Lawn. Or Carlil Pittman, the executive director of Good Kids Mad City Inglewood, who has began plans to transform a vacant building into a West Inglewood thriving youth center. It is this very spirit, this type of spirit of organizing, of action, of relational power, of equity and justice that Dr. Watkins brings through her leadership. Please join me in giving a warm Chicago welcome to Dr. Akilah Watkins.
I've had some of the best hugs since I've been in Chicago. Let me first say thank you, Ellen, for this amazing week. I am so deeply inspired. And thank you, Joel, for just reminding me and all of us about the importance of care. Right? Because at the end of the day, I love Chicago Cares because care is your actual physical demonstration of love. That's how you do love. You do love through care. And so it does feel like a homecoming. Chicago is very near and dear to my heart. I'm originally from New York, so don't hold it against me. But also, I came to Chicago because when I was 14 years old, like many of you all in here, I grew up in a middle class, low income, working class, Black and brown community. And I felt like I deserved all the opportunity in the world and wanted to make sure that everybody that was born in that zip code got it too. And we were organizing to reclaim a vacant building in our neighborhood because we didn't have any after-school programming. It was a time in our educational system where they were cutting all the after-school programs. You remember that? And like that organizing spirit, we weren't going to let it hold us back. So I came to Chicago when I was 15 years old and studied with the People's Action Institute with Shel Trapp. And I learned how to do community organizing. I learned how to do one-on-ones. I learned how to see people. We don't see people enough. And that's your job as an organizer. You see people, you hear people, you listen, you talk, you engage. And so for multiple suburbs, I used to come here and work on the west side of Chicago, going door to door and registering people to vote. That was part of my give back, because you don't just come and get stuff in Chicago, you got to give back to Chicago. And then later on in my career, when I moved here, I lived on the south side of Chicago as a low-income resident. So what does that mean? That means I was back and forth on the Green Line, taking the 47th Street bus, living in the food desert of the south side. Had to go all the way to the south suburbs to go food shopping once a week. I had a son. My son's maternity care was done in one of your community health care centers. I had to get state-sponsored insurance. I was one of the residents you work with. And so I love that because everybody has a story. And so Chicago taught me while I was here that even where I lived did not matter. I still had a healthy child. I still went to school. I still contributed to the community. I used to work in the Austin community on the west side, working with community development, doing affordable housing over there. I volunteered in and around the city, all the while being very connected to this community, and I thank you all for helping to shape me. It's because of your work. And it's because of what you give to the communities in and around the city. Now, I know Chicago is plagued with a history of housing discrimination, racism, terror, and violence. I would be remiss if I didn't remember that and live through that, or through the remnants of that. But it's also full of hope and fight and spirit. And so I will say that I have never been in a community where I have just experienced and felt the spirit of people that have such a clear vision for their neighborhoods. Yeah, people aren't trying to necessarily leave their neighborhoods. They just want to make it fair and just and right and safe for the people that live there. And I think that's the spirit of Chicago. Chicago has a lot to teach the rest of the country, and so let me tell you what I'm doing now with the rest of the country. What am I doing with all this energy that Chicago gives? So right now, I am president and CEO at the independent sector. The independent sector is the largest advocacy national organization that helps to marshal and organize all of the country's nonprofits. It's 1.8 million of us in this country. And I make sure that we harness our power, our collective power. So all that organizing I did, it's helping now. It's helping in a good way. And so what does that mean? Just like the Small Business Association has their very, very strong lobby arm, the nonprofit sector also needs theirs, because we're doing great work in Chicago and across the country. There are people every day committed to giving, and we know people are tired. I know people are exhausted. These last few years have been a lot. They've been a lot for all of us, and we are seeing the challenges. We know our volunteer numbers are down. We see that. We know giving is down. And I urge you all to continue to build and strengthen the relationships you have with each other, because that is really what's making the difference in the communities and on the major issues we have to solve as a community. So what's going on right now at the national level is a couple of different things. One is that there are 1.8 million nonprofits in this country. That generates about a little less than 7% of GDP. That's huge. Also, we have about 18 million people in our workforce as a sector. And most of those people are women, and a lot of them are Black and brown folks. But if we do not take care of the people that care, we can lose that. So we will. And we know that volunteerism is important, not because of the people we help, but because what it does to our own soul. I hope everybody knows that. When we give, when we show up, when we contribute, it helps us heal too. And so volunteerism is a two-way street. And so it's important for us to hold that as a way to help mitigate any power dynamics that can come up sometimes. And so I know that we're all in here doing repair work. And I would love for us to think of ourselves like that. We don't just sort of go in and volunteer for a day. We do repair work. We're repairing a lot of the trauma and pain that has happened over multiple generations. So our work is important, which is why I wanted to come here and be steeped in community, because I have to take the hopes and dreams and that energy back to Washington, and I have to fight. So what am I doing today? One is that we have a national piece of legislation that just got introduced into Congress about 7 days ago. It's called the Nonprofit Seat Act. And basically what this does is that it will actually have a cabinet level position in the White House to be able to advocate on behalf of our needs as a sector. That bill will be able to not only marshal and push resources out to organizations that are doing good work, but it will also be able for us to be in relationship with government, right? In a way that we sit at the table as a power. We're not begging for anything. They let me in, so I'm gonna just do it. They let me in. They let me in. So, a couple of things I want to leave with. One is that we know that our staffs are exhausted. We know our volunteers are exhausted. So it's important for us to deliver care to them. One of my major initiatives is to look at the nonprofit workforce. That does include volunteers, stipend pay, and actual employees. We want to look at things that will, because anybody that cares and dedicates their life to service should be able to take care of themselves. They should not have to be concerned as to how they will retire, how they're going to pay their bills. That's not the type of America that I want to build. And I know that's not the type of America that we want to build in here. So I want to tackle those issues. I want to look at them. More than that, I want to work in relationship with smart and dedicated people like yourself so we can solve those issues. The other thing we have to do is we have to awake the American spirit. Volunteer numbers have dropped about 7% over the last few years. We are seeing the retrenchment of equity within our sector, meaning that our sector, since COVID, has become less racially diverse. We are seeing more and more women not return back to the nonprofit sector after COVID because we're exhausted. We're exhausted. And so I'm going to grapple with those issues, but I don't want to grapple alone. And that is why I needed to go visit the Inglewoods. I needed to. I needed to go visit. I needed to sit in space and be with people so I can take that energy back so I could continue to be strategic and be able to bring together the right people so we can multiply that sort of spirit and results across the country. So I would be remiss if I didn't leave you all with something to do, a call to action, right? I don't leave without asking for something. That's just who I am. So one is that I want you to continue to care for each other. That's important. So what does that mean? That means the fact that we're in this space, first of all, the Four Seasons dedicating this space, it's amazing. And we need our corporate community to show up and continue to provide the resources, employment opportunities for our young men and young women that sometimes cannot or don't realize that there is a future. We need our corporate community. And we also need our corporate community in relationship with our activists. And then we need them in relationship to our nonprofit organizational leaders. And so to continue this amazing bridging and relationship building is extremely important. This is an example for the nation. The second thing is that I'm really interested in building local coalitions of support and development. So I don't want to leave this town and not be in relationship with Chicago again until I or y'all need something. I want us to be in constant communication. I want to know about the ecosystem in which you exist in as a nonprofit and how a national organization can help accelerate your work. What do you need? What sort of training you need? Resources, opportunities, connections. That is what a national organization like Independent Sector does. And then finally, part of what I do is hold the moral center of the sector. That's part of my job. And so having people who I can have as accountability partners is important. That we can be in relationships so close and so vulnerable and transparent that Joelle can call me and say, Akilah, listen, I saw this. I don't know what that is, but I needed to check in with you. That's important. We need that. And if anybody can do it, I know Chicago can. So, and finally, as a young organizer myself, I encourage you to reimagine and to bring that sort of bold leadership and resources to the communities that desperately need it. So I started out by talking, and Joelle introduced me. Yes, at 14, I did start a local community organization, and I was working with at-risk young people. Had no money, no funders, didn't go to any fancy school to do it. I just did it because I saw something in my community. And so I think it's so amazing how we talk so much about converting vacant property, because I didn't even talk about my third stint in Chicago, and I will just end because I know there's gonna be a sign up that says I have 30 seconds. Yeah, right there, Ellen's gonna get. The vacant property is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for how people forgot about us, they left, took resources out of our community, and now we're transforming that. We're transforming that. Because through that transformation, we transform ourselves, right? And so that is why this work is happening on multiple levels. And so I want to thank Chicago again for being an amazing host to me this week, for filling me up in ways that I desperately needed, and for doing amazing work and never giving up on people that deserve a chance, need a chance, and want opportunities. So thank you, Chicago Cares, so much.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Ray, and I am the proud CEO of Chicago Cares. So I'm going to start by telling you that we normally make sure that you're out at 9, but I might need like 2 extra minutes. So I'm going to ask for permission to go like 2 minutes over, because this speech is 9 minutes and 30 seconds long, and I'm going to need it. So I am the proud CEO of Chicago Cares, and this breakfast is the best reunion. I am so grateful for the opportunity to celebrate our powerful work together. That work is all about co-creating service engagements, training, and consulting that connects, educates, influences, and activates Chicagoans to build the city we all deserve. I'm so grateful today to be joined by both our co-founders, Leslie Bloom and Mary Purhall. Thank you both for your commitment to service. And we're grateful that you have entrusted all of us in this room to steward that work forward 32 years later. I also personally want to thank Leslie for being a rock for me in changing times and a cherished support as we move this work forward together. I want to thank our amazing staff who are all in the room. They made today possible. And finally, I want to thank Akila, who has made my heart full this week. Thank you for spending time with us, our communities, our sector. I know that this is the first of many trips that we will do together. So if you hear my mama tell it, I am an active imaginer. I loved imaginary play as a child. I could turn a shipping box into a rocket ship in a hot second, and couch cushions into a mountain that I needed to traverse. Imagination was and continues to be one of my superpowers. Imagination was also a prevalent theme as we facilitated the development of Chicago Prep, the co-designed initiative setting thousands of young people from Chicago's South and West Sides on a pathway to high-quality careers. During that process, we often talked about the Marian Wright Edelman, the founder and president of the Children's Defense Fund, when she said, "You cannot be what you can't see." The idea that we cannot realize that which we cannot envision or imagine is not just a truism in youth engagement work. It's actually also a shaping assumption of organizing, innovation, and community change. It's not enough for us to just know what's not working. To realize change, we must imagine new possibilities. So all change is an act of imagination. It's a commitment to the power of what's possible. So let's assume then that even us adults and leaders in the room sometimes need this reminder, maybe just a little bit remixed. You cannot realize what you cannot imagine. I'm gonna say it again. You cannot realize that which you cannot imagine. We cannot realize a more just, vibrant, and equitable Chicago if we can't imagine her. We can't realize a peaceful city if we cannot imagine her. We cannot imagine or realize a healthy and inclusive Chicago if we can't imagine her. The good news is that there are so many leaders exemplifying what imagination has made possible here in this room today. Our city is actually teeming with imaginative leaders who are living into alternatives and disruptions to make Chicago the city it aspires to be. Because opening a business in tumultuous times takes imagination. And building the Midwest's first anaerobic digester to create circular and sustainable economies on the South Side, that takes imagination. The work of amazing social impact leaders and projects represented here today in this room are exactly what we need to see. New, more equitable futures that we can be part of and ways that we can be in relationship to them. These projects and leaders give us a sense of possibility. They share with us visions of the future that we can all dream of and dare to love. But there is another group of imaginers for us to pay attention to. It's the Chicagoans who imagine that they have the power to participate in change. They imagine a city more connected across neighborhoods, experiences, and identities, and they line up their broad shoulders side by side to hold each other up and to lend their strengths to building something together. Those leaders who have exemplified imaginative service are also in this room. Service that breaks with convention, that embraces new ways of acting and investing. Because co-designing new ways of engaging service and community engagement, or starting a service journey without fully knowing where it's going to take you, or making long-term financial commitments in economically uncertain times. Each of these are moments of imagination, and they lead to unique acts of service, and they catalyze investment. These service journeys each start with a prompt that invites our imagination. How might we? The question, how might we, is what we at Chicago Cares call the powerful question. It has led to some of our most innovative and exciting work. How might we led us to align service to community-authored quality of life plans? It led us to scale co-design, to shift power, resources, and visibility to Southwest and Northwest Side communities. And it led us to launch consulting to advise companies in best-in-class approaches to community engagement. Over the last 5 years, how might we? A question which activated our imagination and launched a new generation of programs has made something amazing possible. It has resulted in over 18,000 volunteers engaging and over $9.2 million in resources and investment directed to our core communities. Chicago Cares is uniquely positioned to influence the action and investment of thousands of Chicagoans because we sit at the center of a web of relationships between the corporate, community, political, and civic sectors. And through imaginative new ways of engaging people in sectors, thousands of Chicagoans can be in service in new ways because they can see what service makes possible. Knowledge, connection, investment, and action. They join us through our calendar on our website and their companies, and their service sets them on a path to become a committed volunteer, to support policy change, to join boards, to vote, to become a donor. Most recently, How Might We led us to imagine and envision 2 exciting new offerings. One you heard Dion talk about, Power of Service, our new training offering for volunteers, corporations, and nonprofits to build critical mass around relational, community-driven, race equity-centered service. The second is collaborative fundraising, a way of raising joint funds for joint programs and partnerships with and for our community partners. Collaborative fundraising this year has already resulted in more than 150,000 new funds for community investments. The invitation to imagination has changed us. Today, our impact is greater than we even believed it could be because our vision of what's possible, the field of play, is bigger than it's ever been. As an adult, the tricky thing about imagination is that it correlates to hope. Hope fuels powerful imagination. I choose hope, not fear, not trepidation about the future of the city I love. And my hope leads me to envision a future built by courageous imaginers on the best parts of who we are. That courage is often about stepping back from the status quo, throwing out your playbook, departing from convention, or simply letting something go that's no longer working. At Chicago Cares, we believe that service seeds hope. After all, the true power of service is that it changes our outlook and sparks our imagination. Because of our service, we can see a stronger and more unified Chicago today. We can see a Chicago where compassion, collaboration, and solidarity drive action. We can see a city more deeply bound together that is capable of transformational change. And all of that changes us. How we show up, what we contribute, and how we act in the world. We have made the intentional choice to imagine a different future for Chicago and to act courageously in ways that move us closer to that vision. Today, we invite you into imagination. Where can your hope for our city propel you? Where do you imagine that deeper bonds, maybe even with some of the people in this room, might ignite new action? What is your version of a rocket ship built from a shipping box? And how might we, in moments when our hope wanes and when our imaginations feel inaccessible, find power in service? Today, we invite you also into deeper partnership. We know we have serious challenges in Chicago, but we also have each other. And as Orion reminded us, you are not alone. We're here, hands extended, with an invitation. How might we, together, build a more vibrant and equitable Chicago? Because in the words of another great Chicagoan, Gwendolyn Brooks, we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude, and we are each other's bond. Thank you for joining us this morning.